Hello, my name is Reverend Bonnie Rose, and I'm your host today for this episode of Our Ventura TV. Today, it's my pleasure to speak with Wakanyi Hoffman. Wakanyi is originally from Kenya. She is the author of Sala, Mountain Warrior, and she's here today to speak with us about the practice of Ubuntu. Welcome, Wakanyi.
Thank you so much for having me, Bonnie.
My pleasure. Thank you. So, Wakanyi, tell us a little bit about Ubuntu. What is it?
So Ubuntu is a concept that originated from Africa. It's one of the oldest known philosophical thoughts to have come out of Africa, and mainly from South Africa. So it's the word Ubuntu is a Shona word, and Shona is a language from South Africa. But Ubuntu, the word itself and the concept can be traced through different languages across Africa, especially amongst the Bantu communities. So for example, where I'm from Kenya. I was born and raised in Kenya. And we have a similar word that is Ntu, which means humanity, which means your humanity. So Ubuntu really means that a person is a person through others, other persons. So when I look at you, I cannot qualify myself as a human unless I qualify myself through your own humanity. My recognition of you as a human being then qualifies me as a human being. So it's really almost like we're checking in on each other. We're checking in on how we are, what values we hold, and really the common values that we hold, not so much our differences. So that's really what Ubuntu is.
Oh, wow, about common values. So how does one practice that in a very practical level? I hear there's actually a phrase that goes with Ubuntu. Can you explain what that is?
So the phrase itself is, I see you, you see me, right? So that's kind of what Ubuntu really is. It is a call to deconstruct these identities we have of each other and to really see each other as human beings first and foremost. And it's very much rooted in an indigenous worldview, this idea of reciprocity, interdependence, interconnectedness. And it really takes the human out of the center of creation and puts us where the rest of creation is. So life itself becomes this sacred source of our existence. And as a human community, we then understand that we're in communion with other communities of life that are happening in life at the same time. So there's a lot of reciprocating of each other's values as human beings, and then as a community of human beings, reciprocating values that are acceptable with other living beings, so we can all coexist, we can all interdepend. So there is this idea of we are not here alone. We don't have the power of the planet, and we don't have this the means to extract and to use the planet as if it is our own. Then is diminished by our understanding of who we are, what our place in the world is, as individuals and also as a community.
Wow. So now, do you practice Ubuntu? Like when you practice it, do you actually say the phrase "I see you," or do you just think it, or how do you do that?
Well, I think, to be honest, it's a lot in the greeting. I feel that, and I think this is something that most people that have traveled to Africa will say, there's a lengthy way of greeting each other. It's not just, hi, how are you? There's a desire to know how this person is really doing. And in that process, you're really trying to understand through maybe body language, through the tone of someone's voice, or just their facial expression, how they truly are. So there's this, it's not you're not obligated to be in communion with another person, but you feel this desire. If you're going to have a relationship with someone, you feel this desire to get beyond the face value and understand how they're doing. So it's almost like a slow storytelling, or a slow process of getting to know each other, rather than this sort of obligatory, hi, how are you doing? And you don't really take the time to understand how that person is. So Ubuntu in action really is a question of how much time do you have to dedicate to another person's experience in life.
Wow. So for me, for the folks in Ventura County, is there a way that if we choose to, we could start practicing Ubuntu?
Well, I would imagine that you already, in some ways, do practice Ubuntu. I think it is, as like I said, it is an idea that originated in Africa, but it is certainly not special or unique to Africans. I think you can find the same concept. In fact, you will find the same concept in most other indigenous communities around the world. And in our modern world as well, you know, we do small acts of kindness. We are unconditionally generous to people that we care about. So I think if I was to give a tip or an idea of Ubuntu in action, in the world that we're living in right now, I feel like there is this need to really reconsider who we are in the face of children, because children are the first recipients of our common values, who we are as a global citizen, as global citizens, as adults. That's what our children are looking to become. So I think that to me is a call to really check in with yourself and then check in with the children, find out if the kids are okay, and really try and give them a sense of hope by showing them who we are. We are loving beings, we're generous, we're kind. We're not always fighting, we're not always arguing, we're not always looking for problems to solve. You know, children need to see this hopefulness in our faces. And I think that's really what Ubuntu in action on a whole would look like in the world.
Thank you. So one more question, just a brief answer. It sounds like what you're saying can have a wide impact if it's really practiced. Do you believe that Ubuntu can change the world?
Absolutely. I think not only can it change the world, but it has changed the world. So Ubuntu was popularized by the late Reverend Desmond Tutu in South Africa, post-apartheid in South Africa. And it was a call to unite a country that was really divided. And of course, you know, one could say, did it help or did it not? I think it did. It did help to bring people together, to remind folks that are Black and folks that are white, that there's no difference really when you think of yourselves as one, as human beings. And that the popularizing of Ubuntu in South Africa healed a nation that could have gone a very different direction. And we've seen that same spirit of Ubuntu play itself out in other situations, other really terrible situations like the Rwandan genocide, for example. The spirit of Ubuntu really came out during the peace and reconciliation effort. So yes, I think that there is hope. And I think that Ubuntu can change the world, really.
Thank you so much for giving us hope. I think we need it right now, especially. So appreciate you spending time with us. On behalf of our viewers, Wakanyi, I'd like to thank you. And again, this is Reverend Bonnie Rose with Our Ventura TV. Have a beautiful day. Thank you very much.